Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum to all of you, and welcome to Corporate Law and Professional Ethics lecture number 2. This lecture is also divided into 3 parts, that is part A, B, and C. In part A, we will discuss the first 5 salient features of a registered company. And part B, we will also next 5 salient features of a registered company, and in part C we will discuss the last 6 salient features of the company. So this lecture is about the salient features of the company. If you properly understand these salient features, it will be easy for you to understand the rest of the company's act, because it will provide you the basic principles on which the company is established or based. The learning objectives of lecture number 2 are mainly 2. Number 1 is that this is an important lecture because it helps the students in understanding what the company is. So what is the nature, scope of the company? What is the legal status of a company? So all this you will have to learn in this lecture. At the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand it. And second is that students will also understand what are the different essential elements of a registered company, and you can easily distinguish between different types of companies, in between registered company, chartered company, and statutory company. So it will you will have a command over all these topics, inshallah, at the end of this lecture. What are the salient features? Salient features basically means the most important, remarkable elements of a company. So first is the registration. Every company must be registered. Second is it must be based on the voluntary association, that is the free consent of the individuals. It must have a separate legal entity, as we have already discussed in Salomon versus Salomon and company case. Name and nationality, as being a legal person, it has its own name, it has its nationality, domicile, etc. Limited liability, transfer of shares, management, that is board of directors, perpetual succession, registered office, main registered office of a company, own property, company can own property in its own name. Public documents, the documents of the company are the public documents, and everyone has the right to visit them. Can be sued in its own name. It can file a suit in the court by its own name, and also can be sued in its own name. Shareholders can contract with the company. Company is a separate legal person, so they can enter into contract with it. Common seal, winding up double tax. Now we will discuss the 5 first elements of a registered company. So as you know that registered companies or registration is essential. There can be no company without a registration. Registration is compulsory under Companies Act 2017. A company must be registered either by Companies Act 2017 or already existed in under previous acts or ordinances. The first company act that was introduced in subcontinent was Companies Act 1913, and after independence, Pakistan has followed this act. In 1984, the company's ordinance was passed by the government. At that time, General Muhammad Ziaul Haq was the chief executive of Pakistan, president of Pakistan. So therefore, he introduced the ordinance. I think you are quite aware that what does act and ordinance means. Both are law. Act is the law that is passed by the parliament, while ordinance is a law that is passed by the head of the state. So registration is essential because it is distinction between a registration and other forms of association. There are a number of other forms of association that performing function, for example, NGOs. So NGOs are not registered under the Companies Act, so therefore they cannot be called as a company. So the sole criteria for a company in Pakistan is that it must be registered under the Companies Act 2017. Second essential element is voluntary association. The company is in the result of free consent. Company cannot be formed by inheritance. No, it must be in the result of the voluntary association and free consent. A company is a person. A person here means that there is a single member company, so there is no association, just that one person can also form a company, and that company is called a single member company. Or an association of person here means that a company may be private or a public company that you want to register. Private company minimum number of members is 2, while maximum is 50. While in public company minimum number of members is 3, and maximum there is no limit. So this is very much clear that company is based on the consent of the members or the individuals and not in the result of law. A company can be in the result of law, for example, statutory company, that is in the result of an act of parliament, or chartered company that we will afterward discuss, that is in the result of the royal charter. But the registered company cannot came into existence by law, but it will be based on the free consent, and it registered itself. Automatically, it cannot came into being. The third is separate legal entity. We have already discussed it in lecture 1. In the classic case of Solomon versus Solomon and Company, that company is a separate legal person. Separate legal person, can you define what is a legal person? Yes, in lecture 1 we define legal person is the one who has rights and duties under law. Yeah, any person to whom law attributes rights and duties is called as a legal person. So company is a legal person. It has its own legal personality. It has its own name, own nationality, separate from that of its members. That is the shareholders. This rule also applicable to a single member company. Although there is just one member who formed the company, single member company was introduced by President Musharraf in 2002 by an ordinance, and now it is a part and parcel of the Companies Act 2017 also. So I think it is very much clear. There is no ambiguity in it. The third is the name and nationality. Every company that is registered under Companies Act 2017 must have its own name. Without name, a company cannot be registered. Rather, the company is the very first step in the formation of company. First, before registered your documents with the registrar of company, you will have to apply for the name class. So name of the company is essential, and by the registration, it also make it clear that its nationality. It gives the nationality to the company. If it is registered in Pakistan, the company's nationality will be Pakistani, or if it is a foreign country, then it depends on the place of its registration. The nationality of that company will depends on the place of its registration. So any name you can choose for your company, but there are certain restrictions that we will, afterward, we will have to study them in detail. But a few limitation is that a company name cannot be in the name of the company which is already registered, or in the name of the government positions or government departments, for example, Prime Minister's company, President's company, etc. So these are the limitation on the name of the company. The companies may be different, and it may be regional, national, international. So it entirely depends on the nationality of a company. Last essential element that we will have to discuss here is the limited liability. That is the most important and striking feature of a company limited by shares. All the companies are not limited, having limited liability. Only the company limited by shares. So if a company that is limited by shares must write at the end of their name of the company LTD, that is limited. Uh, one thing, another, I want to make it clear to you that limited liability here does not mean the limited liability of the company, because the company's liability is unlimited. The company liability is unlimited. Limited liability here means the liability of the shareholders, liability of the members is limited up to their investment in the company, up to their shares in the company. For example, Mr. A has shares of 1 lakh rupees and Mr. B shares of 50,000 rupees. In case of the winding up, if the company suffer loss, then Mr. A will suffer loss up to 1 lakh rupees because he has invested 1 lakh rupees. So he can suffer up to 1 lakh and not more than that. Even if the company is in debt, still he is not bound to pay more than 1 lakh rupees. In the same way, Mr. B, who has invested 50,000 rupees and he has the shares of 50,000 rupees, so therefore uh, uh, he will lose, his loss will up to 50,000 rupees, and he will not contribute more than that. This company is most favorite company and a popular company because of the limited risk of loss. In case of winding up, in case of the loss of the company, the liability of the company is, liability of its member shareholder is limited up to their investment. As in case of the Solomon versus Solomon, Mr. Solomon, who was a director of the company, his liability was also limited up to his investment. Although the creditors at that time, they have more than around about 7,000 pounds have a debt on the company. When they asked the Honorable Chief Honorable Lord Justice that how we will get from how we will get our debts that we have given to the company. So the judge replied historical remarks that I have sympathy with you, so I cannot do anything. And the case was dismissed. So therefore, the liability of the company is unlimited because all of his assets came under the liability. But the liability of its member, the shareholder, is limited up to their investment in the company. So here, the part A is came to an end. The lecture part A comes to an end, and we will have a short break. After that break, we will start our lecture 2 part B. Inshallah. Thank you.